Alright, hello everybody. We're going to continue with the Bankroll challenge. We're going to give it a try on YouTube this time. What are we feeling like today? Maybe a bit of zoom, maybe a bit of regular cash, maybe even some sit and goes. Do this for a few hours and we will see how we go. If you're in the chat, say hello, the YouTube chat this time instead of Twitch. Hang on, let me just close this door. Alright, if you guys have a preference, let me know. Otherwise, I think we will just jump into... what's the bankroll now? The bankroll's at 250-ish. Sin goes going on. No heads up, sin goes. Alright, I guess we'll give some good old fashioned 5-0 we'll try again. Don't expect this to be amazing at this time of day, but we'll give it a try anyway. Nonetheless, once again, there is a 30-second delay. 30 seconds this time, I think. Mainly because I think YouTube puts their own slight delay on it as well. Hello, no time to spare. I'm going to try and talk through some of my decisions as we go along. So here, after a limp, the hijacks range we would think is pretty tight, and so if someone wants to raise and call against the hijacks range, we should be folding. Got a bit of music in the background, hopefully you guys can hear me. If it's too loud, I can turn the music down. And put the microphone a bit closer to my face as well. Okay, once again, this is a open and then a 3-bet, pretty big. Let go of the third best hand and hold it. A6 suited is definitely strong enough to open in the cutoff. Probably going to try some mix sizes today. Go 12, that's about 2.5. And once again, if you guys have any questions, just let me know. So here the big blind is a bit short, so we probably want to be opening slightly smaller. Is this hand strong enough to open with the big blind is short? Probably not. Not that short. Check this hand out of position. Could consider bluffing this hand. It's fairly easy when the guy does that. But we've got all the other pairs that we would check to try and check raise. Yeah, what else can I say about that? A little lower, alright. How is that? Okay, let's try that a bit lower. So here against button open, we can consider defending this in the small blind. So let's 3-bet it. Folded. That's fine. I don't think the EV of continuing with that hand out of the small blind in that particular spot is very high anyway. I think it might even be 0 if I'm correct. King 8. Let's open this up. Go 2.5 here. Jack 3 will fold. The small blind are called here, so they should have a tighter range than the big blind. This hand is still fairly strong with the bluff, but I think I'm going to check it. We make the nuts on the turn. I think I'm going to start betting now. Let's go for half pot. Hope we get raised. No, we didn't get raised. And I think that our opponent has nothing. Where that means we should go in. I think we go in with like the second and third nut flushes and just pot the nut flush and then call them all in. So there's a spot where you can have multiple different bet sizes on the river. Here we can get to defending. It's a min raise from the hijack. defend the button, play in position, can flop sets, does reasonably well multi-way in terms of flopping sets. When it goes 4 ways like this, and considering the kinds of hands that we would have called pre-flop, I mean, there's so many better hands to continue with. We'd probably only be continuing with the top 20% of our range after a raise and a call, something like that. Queen 9 offsuit is a little bit too weak to open on the cutoff. You can consider opening King 9 offsuit, but Queen 9 just a tad too weak. Once again, if you have any questions, you can always ask. There is a 30-second delay, but I think with YouTube it's a little bit longer than that. So ask a question in the chat and I will answer accordingly. And if you ask a question about a particular hand, you can just type either what board or what hand I had, and I should be able to figure out what you're talking about. Don't know what's going on there. Uh, 7-5 was a bit too weak to open in the hijack. It's strong enough to open in the cutoff. When the rake is high, it's probably not as good to open either. So I might not be opening 7-5 from the cutoff. But I would still be opening it from the button. To some degree. And definitely from the small blind, of course. Another thing to consider is that because the small blind is only 0.4 of a big blind, we want to be playing slightly tighter. There we go, goes down to the hijack. Get called by the big blind. We make a second pair. Hello, Ati. We make second pair on this kind of board. I think with the difference in the ranges, we're going to be continuing at a fairly high frequency with some slightly bigger sizes mixed in as well. That's probably a good way to do it. Yeah. Should be three betting nines from the button most of the time in that hand. You just caught mid-range on the gun and went 4 ways. Yeah, so it's totally fine to it's totally fine just to be calling on the button. So here we bet quarter pot into our opponent's range. It should be fairly polar. Once they check to us, like they're either checking as a trap to check raise, or they're giving up. A lot of players will just called with a flush draw against a quarter pot bet rather than raising it. And most players, when they make their flush, they like to bet them, so it's kind of difficult for the opponent to have a flush there, at least at these levels. So in terms of 3-betting 9-9, I mean, I've got ranges on the Zenith Poker website. So against the earlier positions, hijack, low jack, you're going to have more calls out of the button as a proportion of your continuing range, right? And the reason why that is because you can kind of consider the out of position player's range to be somewhat polar. There's going to be a polar component of it. Should I let this one go multi-way? Probably. I think both of them are folds. And so you should have some flats there, right? You can't be 3-betting everything. Usually on the button you want to be 3-betting a polar range and just flatting the middle parts of your range, and that way you end up getting the most value when you have a strong hand and you avoid sticky situations when you have a middling hand. So if we're 100 blinds deep, I'd probably open this one, but because we're shallow against the big blind, we're letting that go. open 6-5 off. Okay. It's pretty straightforward stuff so far. Against a limp, maybe we can raise this hand sometimes. Probably checking it most of the time though. It's a really good board for him, so kind of just in give up mode now. And too high. Alright. It's time to bluff now. Like the check down range just needs to be quite weak. Jack 7 suited there, Ashman in the cutoff, probably not. I think it was with the old ones, the slightly older cutoff ranges, but now with the slightly newer cutoff ranges it's a fold, but I haven't uploaded them on the website yet. Let's go to 12 big blinds here in the small blind. Okay, we get it in. Oh, that's unfortunate. What is the highest stake I have played? I play all of them. Let's go up to here. What's going on with this? Alright, let's call that. Well, that's unfortunate. What's a Bankroll at? 245 plus whatever's on the table. Everything is Jack from the cutoff. Against this 3x open, we can probably fold this on the small blind. And let one go. Out of position here, I like to check. And this kind of board is much stronger. Jack, yeah, on the Jack 4-2, I mean, you have a bet. I mean, it's kind of okay because it was a limp pot. But you know, a flop 2 pair, so especially at the top 2 pair, when you've got the top paired, the top card paired on the board, it's pretty hard to be beat, and it's also pretty hard to be outgrown as well. Like if the opponent's got a weaker 2 pair, they've got the 10 outs like that. Before quarantine, I played much live. I played some live. The rake in Australia is abysmal for live, so it's really not fun when the rake is that high. Like say for example, if you guys know the rake in some parts of Australia, the city which I'm in, the rake was something like 10% capped at, it's either capped at 3 big blinds or 5 big blinds. And when the rake is at high, 10%, and the cap is that high, almost every hand is hitting that cap. And so the casino is probably taking something like something in the order of like 50 to 100 big blinds per hour off the table. And when they're doing that, like, you need to have 50 to 100 big blinds being put on the table by other players in order to even break even, right? Otherwise you're just losing to rake as well. Alright, flop a decent 2 pair. So I guess we'll just call. Improved to 2 pair, but the flush came in. That was not amazing for us. I guess we check it back in the river. I mean, when it goes multi-part like that, everyone's either got trips. So here, heads up, we're checking. Let this one go. Make trips now. The ace of clubs kind of changes things for us a little bit. So we can go for a check raise instead. Over raise. You go for 5-9. Probably not with the small one being a bit short. The rake is fairly high here. We're just going to be flatting the pocket pairs of below like 9s, I think, against the button open. Missed the set. Probably going to be calling this only because it's got a backdoor flush draw and backdoor straight draw. Otherwise, kind of just giving up. I mean, we'll make it straight here. Over at 10. Alright, go now. Once again, there's a 30-second delay in the video. If you have a question, you can always type in the comments in the chat, and I will answer you. These hands are decent opens in the hijack. I mean, there'd be decent opens in the low jack as well. So we're going to be to bluff this hand in this particular spot after the small blind calls. We would expect them to be donking this kind of flop, so we're going to check this back. Making an ace is kind of nice, but he's got a fairly gonna have a slightly higher density of ace X in his range because he's gonna be donking some of his pairs, and so he's gonna have a little more ace X than we do. Block the straight. Yeah, okay. Block the straight. Bit of a strange bet for him. Yeah, I guess the squeeze, we just let it go. Let's throw it this hand. Let's go to 8. 6 out suited. Yeah, alright, let's open this and cut off. Let's connect the board, but it's hard to have made a pair. You got a backdoor flush draw. Seeing the 3-out range, like what kinds of hands we got? A bunch of overpairs, I think. Do we just plot this and go up? Probably. Do you want to continue? Yeah, let's continue. So some basic preflop stuff, let me go, let me go. Open ace 10 suited on the button. And we get it through, which is nice. King 7 suited is definitely trying to type in the hijack. And we get through. Awesome. The squeeze was so small, Queen Jack was calling. Probably not call. If I needed to decide between calling Jack 10 and Queen Jack, I'd probably call Jack 10. Just because Queen Jack becomes fairly easily dominated. Jack 10 is slightly less so. The thing with Queen Jack is it loses pretty hard to both King Queen and Ace Queen, which is going to be fairly dense in the squeeze range. Jack 10 on the other hand, I mean, sure it loses to Ace Jack, King Jack, but like they don't really have that many offsuit versions of that because they probably just flattered them. At least you would have thought. So if I wanted to call one or the other, I'd probably call the Jack 10 at high frequency. But like in that kind of spot, open under the gun and then you've got squeeze, you need to be letting go of a lot of hands because your under the gun range is so tight. Let's give this a multi-way. Check this back. Hold that one, check this back. Yeah, make second pair now. Strong enough to value bet. Are we worried about it too, or are we worried about flush? I don't think so. About half pot. I think he's gonna have some calls with stuff besides an ace. And there's plenty of stuff that they can have. Yeah, I mean they don't slightly overpot into a monotone board. Like we can both have a lot of flushes here and flush draws. Just let that one go. For every combination of ace jack with the jack of spades, we have a combination of ace jack with the ace of spades, which is simply better, right? So don't just call because you got a spade. Do you want to squeeze this one? I think we do. What size do you want to squeeze? Regular 3-bet size? Probably a bit bigger. 14? 14. 14 big blinds for that squeeze. Over the limp. And limp call. That sounds reasonable to me. I mean, here we're out of position and it's just a mess. We just let it go. Yeah. Failed. Just let that go. I'm never gonna make thinking that you're gonna make your 25 cents back with that hand. Like to call that open, so like flop trips, which is nice. We're still going to be checking to him because his range is so much tighter than ours. He checks back. Should we just overbet now? Do you want to squeeze this one? Probably. Did we go like 4 times the pot? I think so. I think it's pretty nice, and like we got a goal from the guy who wanted to be calling us. Let's check it. Check jam. And we get it through. Very nice. It's probably not GTO with that particular hand. That particular hand probably wants to be able to see it turn the river, but yeah, I don't know. I think people probe too wide, so you get a lot of EV just jamming the flop. Yeah, that was a fold anyway, I think. King Jack. Nice hand. Try not to open in the low jack. Once again, we're still out of position, so let's go. Probably too deep to play this one. I'm starting here, only 3-betting here. I think we just go for the 3-bet here. I mean, like this cold call of the 3-bet just doesn't make any sense. So like they're either very strong or very weak, or it's just like somewhere in between. Either way, our tens is crushed by this action, so we let it go. Go. Yes, after it goes like raise call, like we're not expecting the big blind to be squeezing so much, so we can call with these pocket pairs in the small blind to just like set mine, which is a nice feature. Top pair with a backdoor flush draw, and we're in position against the better, so we can call. Playing in out of position against the overcall is probably not going to be. Yeah, it's not super nice now. So we're just going to check to them. Probably go for like half pot, try and get called by jack. It's also sort of like blocking against the opposition player. We don't really want to call a bet bigger than that. Someone's doing some drilling. Open the sixes, fold the 4-2 offsuit. Hello everyone. Once again there's a 30-second delay. So we're going to try this stream to YouTube compared to Twitch, just to give it a go. I usually do this Bankroll stream on Twitch, but I want to give YouTube a try. If you have any questions, you can ask in the chat and I'll get to you in about 30 seconds or a minute. Bet here. It's a break, now over the bet. And let it go. That's kind of how you play this board. Even out of position, I mean it works pretty well in position. But even out of position you can do the same. I think queen 4 is an open in the cutoff. I think queen 5 suited might be. I mean, hijack opened anyway, so we just let that go. Sort of a gut shot here on the right. Yeah, it's pretty tough. I think gut shot overs are pretty okay to call here. Maybe not. How big do we want to bluff? Not that big. I think we just go for a small bet to get some slightly stronger hands to fold. By slightly stronger, I mean like king high, queen high. Open this. I mean, they're both good opens. And the rook is so high, is it open big in order to take the flop down preflop and not pay rake? No, because if you put more money in, you pay more rake. Really, like when someone continues, you suddenly paid the rake, and you paid more because you put more in. Not sure how that's like. Does that kind of make sense? Like, sure, you take it down a bit more, but when you don't take it down, you pay more rake because you've used a bigger size. So it's not really, there's no real benefit to doing it, in my opinion. Yeah, and your range would have to be tighter, which is not so good. The main thing that rake does is it impacts the calling, the player who calls. There should be less calling, more from the big blind in particular. The other positions, as a result, would have some more calling because the big blind is not going to be raising as often because the rake is high, so you're not going to be 3-betting quite as much out of the big blind. And you're not going to be squeezing quite as much, so like the other players can flat call a bit more, knowing that they're not going to be squeezed as aggressively by the big blind. Flush draw on the right, check it. Here, got short, calling hard pop bet. King comes, it's pretty nice because we can stack ace king. I mean, an ace coming is not super great. Here we've got ace high. And we win. We call that the second gutter. I think so. I think we call again. Now it's just like, you block stuff. You just have to call. Play ace queen, you play ace jack, play queen jack, so this is what we fold. Which is, seems kind of sure to have made our top pair and then fold, but like that's just the situation that we were in. Maybe it's pretty high if they check to us, because we can just check back and win. And when the king comes, it's like really, really high, and if anything else comes, they check to us, we stab, and then we win. So that's kind of how you do it. Like once we get to the river there, we see on that queen jack jack board, got plenty of ace jack, ace queen, bit of queen jack, bit of king jack suited, all of which would have not raised in Ilya Street, I don't think. Well, maybe some of the jacks would have. Some of the weaker ones would jack 10, we call here probably. Might have raised, but raising that much in position is probably not necessary when in these river pots. It's just unnecessary. So trying to board that dry. So there we go. Don't think we have to overcall too much here. Make it 12. Yeah, I probably could make it a bit bigger, it's a bit deep. Make it 5. I think make it 5. Make it 5 or 6. 5 or 6. There's some argument for going for 6. Okay. Goodbye. See you in a time sweat. I mean, you can sometimes open the king 10 offsuit on the low jack, but like it's kind of rare, and like that the big blind was very short. So when they're short, you get less like implied odds with those weaker hands. So you'll play a few of them.
You wonder who gon' love you when you're feeling alone, when you're calling every number that you save in your phone. It ain't no one picking up and you're stuck with the tone.
Yeah, I mean, after it goes open and call, we should tighten up our squeeze range a bit. Definitely not a good enough hand to be like overcalling at a position like that. So let it go, let it go, let it go. Okay, well that's just absurd. Probably can't leave the backdoor flush draw and just fold now. Like he's betting 30 times the pot. Alright, so there you go. Let's 4-bet to this size. Actually it's a bit small now thinking about it, probably should 4-bet to like $1. Okay, so both called. We just put it now. Not just got about an 8. Through with this one, let's go 6, probably good. He's gonna have like ace king or something, it's gonna be weird. You just feel it. What happened here? We 3-bet and you got 2 callers and okay. At least we got some equity. It's just so hard to bluff into 4 players. Especially because like they just should. Nah, not at this level. Not at this level. It's just never going to go through. It's just never going to go through. Oh, back our flush draw disappeared. We were hoping for like a 10. Then we stack a queen. Don't know if it's deep enough for that. Maybe it is. Maybe with the ace as well. Then again, it's betting half pot to 4 players, so like you can imagine a heads up bet being 4 times that, 3 times that, 1.5 times a pot. Would you call a 1.5 times a pot bet there if it was heads up in a similar spot? Probably nah, right? Probably nah. Especially with the ace of hearts blocking the flush draw as a possibility. Hey, we're heads up against the big blind. Go for our cheeky quarter pot bet. Yeah, right, we'll continue. Got a spades version, plenty of spades, plenty of spades, plenty of queens, plenty of stronger 5s. Yeah, right, there we go. Should try a lot more check raise when I have the nuts instead of betting small, I think. Yeah. Usually when you got the nuts, like it depends on which combinations that you have, blocking like check back ranges and that sort of stuff. Ace king multi-way, 4-bet pot. This is like kind of small. Do I want to just rip it? Just rip it? Rip it? I don't know. Give me a snap top by his 10. No? Okay. Rip it? Yeah, like the ace king 4-bet pot. After it checks through, I'm like very happy with my hand. Like even if someone bet, I was probably just going to go all in. It's like these merge type things, because like you don't really want to call. Then now you get equity from bluffs is kind of better there. You end up printing your EV by jamming instead of calling. Like you end up immediately capturing your EV rather than having to play the 2 extra streets. Why don't you use the 5 big blind opens? I mean, I could. I definitely could. But we're just easing into it, I think. Easing into it. Maybe on the weekend when it gets a bit more splashy, we can start doing weird shit with 5 big blind opens. So what's today? Today is Thursday in America? Thursday night, Thursday morning, Thursday AM. Friday AM. Is it close enough to the weekend yet? Probably. It's definitely the weekend where I am. What's Bankroll looking like? 243 plus 10 is 253 plus 8 is 261. So we're up a little bit today. I think we lost that flip early on with the ace king versus the jacks, and then that 90% when we had like the jack 2 against the 7-4. That was great. It's pretty straightforward so far, I think. Do we want to bluff this one? We give it a try. We'll give it a try. Let's just go to like 11 this time. It's like 11 because it's a bit short. Quarter of a stack. Let's it go. Let's it go. This is probably just a fold against a low jack. So I'm guessing it's morning for some of you, and then like, I guess in Europe, what time would it be in Europe? Like midday-ish? or before, so good morning to you guys. And just let that go. It's like why fight for it with such a weekend? And even though you're in position, it's just not you're just not going to get your 3 big blinds back. Sorry, but this one's got an 8 because we're a little bit deeper. $12, yeah. Got the Kangs, got the Kangs. Kangs. Let's go. Everything go. Alright. We're gonna get in places, aren't we? The issue is like over now, it's just it's the ratio between your win rate and your the risk is just not there. The variance is just not there compared to like the heads up sin goes. That's why in terms of like bankroll building for most of this challenge I've been playing the heads up sin goes, but like no one's sitting right now at stakes that are low enough to be playing with this bankroll. Yeah, maybe we can sell. Yeah, no. Check it down. Yeah, we win. Probably could have valued that, to be honest, but probably could have valued it. Yeah, alright. So hello to everyone who's waking up or eating lunch or whatever. There's a 30-second delay. If you have any questions or comments, you can type into the chat and I will try to answer you. Well, I will answer you unless the question is a bit off the mark for poker. It's pretty dry distribution of hands right now. Which happens, you just press the fold button and you go to the next one. I mean, this part of the reason why players find the Zoom games harder than the regular tables is because players just play tighter, and that's and because they're playing tighter, they're playing slightly closer to GTO, but to some degree they end up playing too tight, like they don't open enough hands, and they don't call enough hands against an open. So as an exploit you can go slightly lighter. Let's get a little bit of value with our ace king high. A lot of their ace highs will call. And now we'll check it and try and get the showdown. Do we value bet again? I think so. Let's go bet a 10th of the pot. They've got a 10, which is Chefman should have raised. That was pretty weak. I'm sure he would have found the bet if I had checked to him, but he didn't find the raise, did he? So making a bit of EV there, and that's how you make EV, ladies and gentlemen. You take your opponents down lines that they don't know, and then they play wrong, and you benefit from it. Like in that particular spot with the ace king, if I had instead checked and he would have bet like half pot, I would have called, possibly. So I would have lost more than just betting that tenth of the pot, trying to get called by weak ace high. What do I think of mass database analysis? It's pretty easy to go wrong with statistics. Like you can end up fabricating false results by looking at statistics, and like mass database analysis doesn't really tell you too much about the person in front of you. You'll end up aggregating a bunch of stuff where like 75 was the big blind here? It was, wasn't it? You end up aggregating the results of the opponents, so like they'll end up looking less polar than they actually are. I think ace king can value bet here, so let's bet a 15% of the pot. Get some value with our ace king. I got ace king. What's going on here? Let's let that one go, I think. And now we just rivet. No, doesn't want to call with ace high. Oh well. Say through bet. Guy 4 times zoom versus regular. Dynamic, randomly tilt. I mean, there's plenty of tilt and zoom. You just don't see it because you're not playing as the same guy. I'm gonna pop the tune. Alright, what it's called. Hey, we beat 5 all now. Most of the queens forward a bet. Maybe he had 5 small and just like couldn't let it go. I don't know. Or he could have just had a 5. I mean, I wouldn't put it past them to have like a pocket pair or something. Tipton's books. Sorry if I'm gonna butcher your name. Gonzalo Moniz. Tipton's books. I haven't read any of Tipton's books. What are they? They're pretty old, aren't they? Definitely wouldn't trust any books from the last decade or earlier. And honestly, I probably wouldn't trust any books from like sooner than 2015. It's because like we haven't, like poker's come a long way with the invention of solvers and stuff. And so like if a book, even though like it's, we should have bet that flop, shouldn't we? Anyway, sorry, it was a bit of a tangent here. Yeah, I mean if the books are just a bit old, then you're just not going to get like factual information. It's just going to be incorrect. It's going to be superseded by stuff you could find quite easily in solvers. Like stuff like, for example, one of the biggest examples, and it's still like circulating today, like the best open sizes are known. Like we know them. Like we actually know what the best open sizes for each position are for basically any at any level, because you can solve it with a preflop solver. Like, so it's actually pretty quick for a solver to figure out which open sizes are good, right? You just run a solution with 2 or 3 sizes or whatever, and then you just let it run, and then very quickly rules out stuff like limping. It rules out stuff like opening 4x. Okay, and then what are you left with? You're left with the correct open sizes, and you see that early positions open smaller than later positions, right? You end up having the low jack, the hijack, they open very close to 2 big blinds. Cutoff opens somewhere like 2 1/4, between 2 and 2 1/4, maybe a tad bigger. I haven't run enough sims to figure that out yet. And then the button goes from like 2 1/4 to like 2 3/4 of big blinds, and that's good for like professional level rake. I think it's also pretty good for no rake preflop as well, which Pluribus found out. Like Pluribus's preflops strategy is kind of similar to that idea. If there's no rake, you can use some of the smaller sizes a bit more. Like the very small sizes, like min opens a bit more. So yeah, as you get closer, as there are fewer people behind you, you end up opening bigger. And then the small blind, it's the biggest on average. You end up opening on average a little bit more than pot. So yeah, that's that. Let's overbet this on the right. Very cool. Just give up now. Really made it straight. Like we just don't have any hands in that line, so jamming is the only thing that actually makes sense. Like all of our strong hands would have kept betting the turn. Should we have? I think this is okay to flat against a limp. So going back to tip and stuff. Like if they don't know anything about like the preflop stuff, like they're gonna give wrong advice, like opening bigger from early positions and smaller from later positions. How big should we go? Like tiny? Yeah, let's go tiny. So yeah, like this was also found out, I think this year, like what the best 3-bet sizes are, with the advent of like Pluribus and definitely all the 3-bet, definitely all the preflop solves that I've run for Zenith. Like there's no book talking about what the optimal 3-bet sizes are. They're all like, oh, you go 4x. Probably should have bet that. You go 4x and then out of position and like 3x in position, but like that's just wrong. I think we'd give up here. All right. Let's go to the next question. Do you think slow playing very strong hands should never be done in these pools when people don't really overbet bluff when they're checked to Depends whether you're out of position or in position. In position, you don't really have to slow play. Like in terms of like GTO, you don't really have to slow play. Like if you have a strong hand on the turn, basically the best way to get all the money in is to bet. Let's go a bit bigger. On the flop, you can say something about slow playing by betting big after they check you again on the next street, but you don't really have to do that when you're deep. Out of position, on the other hand, there's a bit more consideration for slow playing, because you have to have enough strong hands to raise this street, so the flop, and then also the turn. Yeah, like talks about game theory has own solver, but like was that solver strong enough to give you 100 big blind deep through the ranges? I don't think so. I don't think like computers were strong enough to do that. When Tipton's books came out. When did Tipton's books come out? Volume 2012, 2013, yeah. I mean, it's nice to have had during solar back then, but like you can compare like back 8 years ago, like how big, like 32 gigabytes was like an enormous amount of RAM. Like it wasn't even standard for computers to have 64-bit, right? So like you can only have if you only have 32-bit, like the maximum amount of RAM you can have is 4 gigabytes. Right, so you're gonna have to have some specialized hardware in order to even run your solver in the first place. And then it's like, what algorithm is the solver using? Not just has the hardware gotten better, but also the software has gotten better as well. We've just got better algorithms nowadays to be able to run these solvers. So they, like a lot of the stuff that allows you to solve preflop is with abstraction methods, which weren't even talked about until like 2015, 2016, when like they were trying to solve heads up, none of them hold them. Yeah, sorry, I'm Australian. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question. I mean, if any of that was not clear, you can just jump back and then rewatch it and then let me know, and I'll try and re-explain it for you. I guess we just check this one. Oops. You banned to us? Alright. But yeah, anyway, compared to like 2012, what we've got today, I mean, you like it's literally possible for me to rent a server with 2 terabytes of RAM. I mean, it would cost me like €1,500 a month, but it's possible, right? If someone's keen enough to create a full solve of like 200 or 300 big blind deep, no, but hold them, they could, right? And they could probably do a reasonable job with PLO as well. I think we're a bit too deep to be donking this. The Jack 10 got there as well. Alright, let's just cool down. Oh, that's pretty bad. Going back to the 3-bet size, what is the correct sizing in position, out of position? Yeah, okay, let's talk about that. So the 3-bet size depends on which position you're in and which position the opponent is in, to some degree. Okay, but in general, let's go around from the big blind and then go backwards. All right, from the big blind, in general, you want to be 3-betting somewhere around, when you're 100 big blinds deep, you want to be 3-betting somewhere around like 13 to probably like 12 to 14-ish big blinds. The Queen Jack 10 flop against a big blind, it would be a range bet. Against a small blind, not necessarily. I don't even think it's a range bet against the big blind either, like because you're gonna have overbets instead. Anyway, what was that? So yeah, like 12 to like 14-ish, and then like against earlier positions, you go down a bit. So against a low jack, it might go for the range, like 11 to 13 instead of 12 to 14, and then like the button, you go up to. You can talk about going to 15. It's like that for some situations. And that's also a function of like the open size as well. The open size on average is smaller from early positions and bigger from later positions. So like you want to base your average 3-bet size on the average opening size of your opponent if they're playing multiple open sizes. So say for example they're playing the button is playing a range of open sizes between 2.25 and 2.75. You can say the average is roughly 2.5, and so you base your 3-bet size against that average of 2.5. And so you might want to go 14 against 2.5 on the big blind. Okay, and that's the big blind. Going back a spot to the small blind. The small blind is very similar to the big blind in size, except you just like decrease it by roughly 1 big blind. And that's got something to do with the fact that you don't really want to be having quite a polar range, because you've still got the big blind behind you which might squeeze, and you've got half a big blind less invested in the pot to start with. So those two together, should we raise this? I don't think so. Those two together, you end up having a slightly small open size from the small blind compared to the big blind. So say for example, I'm going to 3-bet to 13 big blinds out of the big blind. Out of the small blind, I might only go to like 11 or 11.5, right? And I can do that against whichever open size that they decide to use against me. There's a difference between when we're 3-betting the field and when we're 3-betting small versus a big blind. Like the big blind 3-betting the small blind, you might just go around like 10. They open to 3, you go to 10. They open to 4, you go to 10. They open to 5, you go to 10. Like 10 seems pretty good. 10, 11, 12. Like I'm sure if you open to like 5, you might go to like 12.5, which is a 75% raise. And then so that's the big blind, the small blind, and now talking about the button. Like once again, the button, it depends on what you're doing. Whether you've got like here on King Queen 10, like it doesn't make sense for us to range bet. Like, do we really want to be betting this hand? Not particularly. We kind of want to check it to showdown, so we're gonna have some check raises. We're gonna have a big bet size. Backdoor flush draw. Don't even have a backdoor straight draw. Yeah. So the small blind, so it's the big blind might cold 4-bet us, right? And also, like if you end up increasing your flush right now. If you end up increasing your 3-bet size, your range has to be a bit more polar, and so like the middle of your range ends up being kind of gutted by it ends up being a bit too weak. And so then the big blind can not just call full bet you, they can also squeeze when you call, right? So there's two things going on there. And then the button you usually want to have a flatting range, and you've got a flatting range, and so you want to go polarish with your 3-bet sizes. So like a good 3-bet size is like 7 to 8 big blinds, or maybe like 6 to 9ish, depending on what's going on. You can get a bit more leeway when you're like in position. You can do more stuff, so you can use a slightly wider like kind of variety of 3-bet sizes, I think. So because you're in position, you can do a lot more. I'll leave that up to you to decide whether you want to go like 6 or whether you want to go 8, 8.5, 9, but somewhere in that ballpark. Going a bit too small isn't so good, but on the other hand, going small means that you don't really have to play the called pot as often. And then once again, going back to cutoff and hijack, pretty similar, just because like flatting in those positions is not very good because of the chance that you get overcalled, the chance that you get squeezed by the button, and because like you're not going to have too much of a flatting range, most of your continues against a early position open is going to be as a 3-bet, and so you're going to be 3-betting a bit more of a merge range, and because you're 3-betting a bit more of a merge range, you go to a slightly smaller size. So you go something like 6-ish, I think, is good, like 5.5, 6.5, maybe down to 5 in some cases, at 100 blinds deep. And then you expect like players behind you, if they want to come in, they're going to go for the cold full bet. All right, so I hope that answers your question about the optimal 3-bet sizes. And like the same thing also sort of applies to playing against a limp. Like if they limp, you're going to be using the same raise size, or roughly the same raise size, maybe like minus half a big blind, minus a big blind, roughly the same size as you would be 3-betting. So say for example, here I'm in the button, if the cutoff limps, and I usually 3-bet to, and if I usually 3-bet to 7 big blinds, I might raise the limp to 6 big blinds. Yep, so once again, I mean, if there's a 30-second delay, so if you've got any questions, you just ask and I'll answer it. So here we're kind of short. I like raising to non-all-in size here, and just having him jam and not snapping it off. No, doesn't do that. All right. We're seeing a turn. Count here. All right. Yeah, that was a really good turn for our hand. Jack to jack. Yeah, alright, we'll pull it off. We'll upload the Bankroll Challenge to YouTube. Well, I mean, this stream will automatically go to YouTube. But the previous streams on. Yeah, I might upload them at some stage. It's just that I've just been lazy, I think. It's a cutoff. Yeah. I think I got through this, right? Not enough time. Everyone have a button flat range. A button flat. Would you? Okay. Let me say this again. So, is it Gonzalo? Asks, would you recommend having a button flatting range at the micro/low stakes? Yes, I would. Partly because it's GTO even when the rake is high, and partly because it's important to learn that as you're moving up. I guess we'll just go 3x because we're kind of deep. Yeah. Do defend this. It's a bit on the loose side. Or just let it go. Yeah, let's open this one. Cheeky 1/6 bet. 1/6. Check it, try and get a trade down with ace high now. Do we lead? I think we lead small. We've got small and flats. Yeah, small and flats as well. I mean, the flatting is it's got nothing to do with whether you're in position or out of position. It's got more to do with how many players there are behind you that might squeeze after you flat. So the small blind flatting range against like the standard open sizes is roughly the same width as the button flatting range. Small blind having one fewer player behind them, but being out of position versus the button having one extra player behind them, but being in position. This is a very loose, but we're deep, so like whatever. Do we stab once and then give up? I think so. Straight or flush draw. I think he's giving up now. Makes a flush. We've got a lot of top pairs that made as well, so those need a tad of protection. Second nut flush. Yeah. Oh no, third nut flush. Unfortunately, I have no idea who Europe Plague is, so sorry. think this pool just died. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, no, it's going down to like heads up and stuff. Probably should have raised that open though. $60. Is he? Alright, I'll check him out. Facing really, yeah, I don't know. One of those balls doing that fairly frequently, I think. Just because the opponent's got a lot of like underpairs, suited connectors and that kind of stuff. You kind of want to deny that. I mean, this one on the left is just, yeah, nothing going on here. How's that wrong? Same as before. Alright, shout out to the chat. If you're in the chat, say hello. I think you're on the right. Probably 10th spot. Are you always going to stream the Bankroll challenge? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I haven't always streamed it on YouTube. Sometimes I stream it on Twitch. Well, most of the time before this I streamed on Twitch. This is actually the first time I streamed the Bankroll challenge to YouTube. So I wanted to give it a try. And so, hello VKS. So the optimal 3-bet sizings then. I think we just talked about that, but I can summarize it quickly. Big blind, so it's 100 blinds deep. Big blind, you throw it to about 13. Small blind, you throw it to about 11. Button, you throw it to about 7, 7.5. And then cut off and hijack, you throw it to about 6th. So, hello Nathaniel. Thank you for asking that question. Yeah, this is just not good. Hello Exordium. So pot size bet. Just got the gut shot, but the gut shot isn't to the nuts, and the fact that, well, 9, yeah. Should worry about king queen. Yeah, it would be cool. Oops, no. Open this one. Probably could have called the 7-8. Back to flush draw. Gut shot. Usually that deep when you're in position, you might be calling those gut shots against most bets. cut off. Go for a 4-bet probably. What's a good size 4-bet? 20 big blinds. Throw at this one. Yeah, okay. Let's 3-bet it to 60. That 4-bet's really big. Like here we've got a lot of ace high that wants to check a showdown, so like ace is good at protecting that. Here's pot it, get a call by 2 pair. And like if you haven't noticed, like I've been using some mixed preflop sizings, like and it's not like a big deal, right? It's actually fairly easy to implement it. Of course, something can be said about other people picking that up. It's almost impossible to pick up when you're playing anonymous Zoom. Do we just call here? I think we do. Again, just enough odds, I think, to go for a decent set line. So like you use mixed sizings, I'm using a variety of different sizes, mostly smaller from earlier positions and bigger from later positions. I haven't really implemented it yet in the small one, but I guess I could be mixing it between like 3 and 4 big lines. Like 55, 11 big blinds against the limp. There we go. I mean, you can sometimes open this 900 big blinds deep, but because the big blind there has only got 20 blinds, you don't really want to be opening that wide. You want to tighten up a little bit. Tighten up a little bit. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining the stream. Leave a like if you want, and if you're new, you can subscribe. I think there might also be like in the description a link to Zenith Poker, and you can get like a whole bunch of free stuff. Preflop ranges, simulations, training videos, quizzes. We just did a quiz yesterday on 4-bet pots that was streamed to YouTube directly, so that was a bit interesting, I thought. 4-bet pots are a bit weird, at least compared to single race pots, a lot more like mergey, limbs and stuff. So it's not a very good flop for our range. So probably gonna go for like a check call. What kind of hands do I want to raise? Maybe this one. But I was thinking more like 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s. Those are all hands that probably 6s and 7s just want to bet themselves. And then like you check raise like some stuff like 8s and 9s and 10s. No, doesn't want to bluff me again. Alright. Nah, he probably had like a 4 or something. Let it go, let it go, let it go. Multi-way. We're going to go like 12, let's go like 10 cents now. 10 cents. Hoping for 1 call. 2 calls, 1 call. Oh, no one called. That's not too bad. Like in those kinds of spots, like your EV is actually less in the pot, so if they fold, it's not too bad. And the reason why EV is less in the pot is because you're going to lose some money when they've got a nutted hand, and it's not like a clear value bet at that stage. Yeah, let's see, hijack, let's go. I guess the break's open. There we go, rockets. They go like 4x. Yeah, let it go. Hello, Samuel. What do I think about that? It's just a fold. It's a fold too. Yeah, I mean, pocket aces are my second favourite preflop hand, behind pocket jokers. Actually, now that I think about it, any hand with a joker would be better than pocket aces. With it, would Joker 2 be better than pocket aces? I don't know about that. Think about it. How would you rank the hands with the Joker? Should we be opening larger when opponents aren't 3-betting enough? Not necessarily opening larger, like it's a combination of using mixed preflop sizes and opening a bit wider. Do we want to overcall this? Yeah, okay. Said mine. We missed. So when the opponents aren't 3-betting enough, you're doing a combination of mixing your open sizes a bit and opening slightly wider range. Like you necessarily have to open larger with your stronger hands in order to capture the same amount of EV. While, because they're not 3-betting enough, you can open wider to kind of compensate for that. Let's worry about this one in the big blind versus cutoff. Do I want to see the river? I don't think I want to see the river. Alright. Given the weak parts of a range, gain EV when villains don't 3-bet enough, but the top loses. Yeah, so in order to compensate for them not 3-betting enough, you need to open bigger with the strong parts of your range, and you can open smaller with the weak parts of your range. And as a result, you have multiple open sizes, which has been shown by a lot of solvers that it is very much an optimal thing to do. And as an exploit, it works really well. Yeah, I mean, like playing with jokers kind of gets boring because like everyone just waits for the joker. Like if you got 2 jokers in the deck, everyone just waits around for a joker. Like anyone who knows anything about poker would just wait until they've got a joker before trying to contest the pot. Either waiting for a joker or waiting for like a very, very strong regular preflop hand. But it can't just be like, who has the joker? And then, oh, you got 2 of them, alright. So yeah. I think there's some variants of poker with like, you got 6 cards, 7 cards. You want to throw about this? Nah. The flush draw is nice. I think it helps him a bit more than it helps us. The presence of 2 flush draws means that in position is going to be betting a bit more often because in terms of who's denying equity, it's in position who does that. So let's raise. Should we have raised this hand? Debatable. Alright, we're chopping. I mean, yeah, making nuts every time. They even played some of the variants of poker with a lot more cards. Omaha 5, Omaha 6. You get like Swedish, which is just insane. You can, or like the draw variants with multiple draws. You get dealt 10 cards and you discard 5 and then you draw 4 or something ridiculous. Yeah, let's go with this one. What size do we go? 75 probably. Alright, so this is like a 3-up hand position. We got ace high. And here 6 to do with c-betting 2 backdoors. Usually they make for decent c-bets. It's a pretty broad question because you've got there's a lot of hands that will have multiple backdoors, or unless you mean like a 2-card backdoor flush draw, which is slightly different. But like they're going to be used at a variety of different spots at different times. Usually when you want to have your betting range and your checking range reasonably well balanced with each other, so that you don't run out of draws when you check behind or check out of position, whatever, and then checks through, and then suddenly you don't have that draw because you bet all of it. Omaha 6 is rife with collusion. If you know where all the 10s are, you know people never have the nuts straight in it. Yeah. Like there's gonna be a lot of blockers, and there's plenty of blockers in Omaha. Like you can do stuff like you have the nut flush blocker, you got the ace, but you don't have the actual flush. So you use that to bluff, even though you can't like actually make. You can't actually. I'm pretty sure it's smaller. You can't actually make the flush. You just bluff with it anyway because you're blocking it. Cool, that bluff went through, nice. Fold the 7s there. I mean, not really happy with what the hijack will be fighting with. You just end up without any showdown value. And then there's also 3 players left that could squeeze you, so it's not great. Yeah, it's not here. So yeah, hello everyone, there is a 30-second delay. If you have any questions, you always ask in the chat and I will try and answer you. Otherwise, just drop a like, that helps. If you're new, you can subscribe, and then there's also a link in the description to Zenith Poker where you get a bunch of free poker stuff. Free preflop ranges, which have been sold with very powerful computers. Free postflop simulations, also sold with very powerful computers, and also some video lessons. So make sure to check that out. So that go. Pick up on that flush draw, paired board. Make a flush, it's nice. Continue 6-6. Yeah, so like you gotta weigh up the pot odds that you're getting. You call for the extra 45 cents to win a pot of 180. So you get 25% there. Are you going to get 25%? Probably should have bet this. Here on the left. Alright, that makes it a bit easier. Yeah, you fold that sometimes. But yeah, after it goes squeeze and then call, you just get set too much. Because like they expect them to have a lot of overpairs. We've got a gut shot here. It's a bit bigger. So yeah, with the sixes, after the guy calls, you can just let it go. I think with slightly more rake, you're probably going to be letting it go a bit more often. But then again, maybe a bit deeper, you're not letting it go quite as often. Alright, I think we'll close this up. On the hour. So go for another 5 minutes or so. Thanks for everyone for showing up. Okay, we get that through. We just got so many flushes there. Fold this one, fold this one. Recline more to call when he calls. No, that's not necessarily the case, because like when he calls, the range on average is against the two players is going to be much stronger. I mean, sure, you've got more pot odds, but your equity goes down by quite a lot, because you end up having almost no chance of winning at showdown by just having the pair of sixes by itself. You're really relying on flopping the set. Unlike in a 3-bet pot, a heads up, then you can actually win at showdown, and that component goes towards your expected value of calling, right? So say, for example, you make of the call into 45 cents back, you might make something like 40 cents from flopping a set on average, and then an extra like 10-15 cents from winning at showdown with just having the sixes. So that's what the EV kind of breakdown kind of looks like. But when you go three ways, it's your chance of winning at showdown goes down by a lot. Because everyone's got a pocket pair or will bluff you off when you don't flop a set. Everyone go. Alright, I think I'll play one more little bit and then call it a day. And I'll hang around to answer some more questions if anyone's got any questions. Alright, that's that. Let me if anyone's got any questions, make sure to ask in the chat. There's a 30-second delay, so I'll get back to you as soon as that delay comes through. In the meantime, there's the Patreon. You can always support on Patreon, but I have to read out some names because anyone who goes in terms of levels 3 of a kind or higher will get your name read out. as a special thank you. So, who do I have to thank today? I'm going to thank Jared, Barbaros, Benito, and Julian. Thank you so much for supporting me on the Patreon, and people who get the 2-pair level, I'll put your name down in the description of this video. So if anyone's got any questions, let me know. Once again, support on Patreon. Let's have a look at what the bankroll is. What is the bankroll sitting at now? It is sitting at a, let me show you. Let's do this. Sitting at a comfortable 266.92. So if we start around 250 today, we're up a little bit. There's 3 binds at 5-0. Whatnot. Let's close that. Once again, you go to zenithpoker.com, leave a like on the video. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you another day.